Hey everybody, Brent here. Welcome back to another King's Indian Attack game. We are playing against a Raging Question, and they are almost 1700. It's crazy. Time has been flying. Um, it's nuts. It's crazy. It's crazy, I tell you. Yeah. So we're chilling, and we are playing. Obviously, we're definitely playing chess. This looks like a chess game to me. And we're getting this this London. We've been getting a lot of Londons, trying to beat our heads against them for the past while now. I'm gonna play c4 against this London, and that's mainly targeted towards this bishop. I want to keep a pawn on e2 rather than a pawn on c2. If I have to move one of them, I'd rather move this guy. I'd rather move the c pawn, just because we're gonna try to argue maybe that this guy's misplaced, and this is exactly what I mean. Because now I want to play a3. Do I have to worry about any taking? Maybe not. Probably not. No, I don't think I do. a3 takes, bishop c2, rook takes, or sorry, queen takes or whatever, and then bishop c2. There's always rook d2, followed by b4 bishop to b2 stuff, as well as knight c3. So yeah, it feels like they can't really avoid this too much. They could go a5 here, but we're also quite happy about that. Do I play knight to c3 or bishop to g5? There's a good argument for both, but I'm going to play knight c3, and there's a funny idea why. So normally d4 is kind of a move we have to not care about. Here, maybe we do. Okay, they don't actually go for it at all. I was trying to trick them into playing d4 because there's a certain reason why they cannot play it, in my opinion. All right, so let's play b3. So we're getting kind of like a Benoni where they haven't taken. Now if they take, maybe I even take with the b pawn. And what do I do with this guy? What do I do? So this is helping me. I want to trade. Generally, that's what you want to do in these positions, is you want to trade down. So when they play something like knight to d4, they're helping me trade. And it's alleviating any space disadvantage that I might have had. And now it's less of an issue. So do I ever go e3, d4? This kind of makes this bishop bad. So I'm a little hesitant to play d4, but e3 does look interesting. So does b4, but I think we should play a bit more relaxed. Let's play e3 to start. I want to see if they take. Taking, I think, would be a big mistake, giving me the bishop pair. Things are a little less defined in the center, so I can try to open things up. Generally, the bishop pair is really nice to get, so we would love to have it. All right, so they move away. Is it time to take? If I take, do they take with the e or the c pawn? That is the question. I think if they take with the e pawn, they're going to try queen d7, bishop h3, bishop knight g4 stuff in the future. But I don't think I have to worry about it. I think I do want to take, and this is one of those positions, it's very rare, but I think we should play d4. And so they actually do this, where they go into a essentially symmetrical London of sorts, where bishop's actually on b2 instead. But I think this is just better for us. So I want to play something like knight b5 or knight a4 or something. Knight b5 looks good. I just want to make sure I can meet d4 with e4. But I think e4 might just have to be played. And now we have to do the analysis game. Of course, I guess every chess game is an analysis game. But what I'm trying to say here is we have to analyze a symmetrical-ish position. The only difference is I have a fianchetto and they don't. Funnily enough, I do think the fianchetto is worse in this position, mainly because it's not really doing anything on this diagonal. So that means one thing we can look for is e4, going for an isolated pawn. That's very risky though, and may not be recommended. Another strategy is probably the first thing you should always do when you have a position like this is ask, where do your pieces want to go? So we have lots of pieces and they want to go somewhere, right? This knight's okay, could be improved maybe. Like e5 would be a great square for it. This bishop's not doing so much, so we would love to trade it off in the future. That'd be cool. And also, these rooks are not doing too much. So I want to play rook f to c1. I want to move the f rook just in case if they ever try to target a3. And now I want to play moves like knight e2, f4, d3, and maybe even knight e5. It's long-winded, and we don't have to go for it, but it is something to consider. Another idea is just to go knight a4, followed by bishop to c3, which I also do like quite a bit. Because do they want to go bishop c2? Maybe not. Maybe not. But after bishop c3, if they go b5, I bring my knight to b2, and then try to get it to d3 there. So there's a lot of ways we can remaneuver our pieces. Generally, I would love to get this knight to d3 instead of c3. It's kind of a little misplaced. And of course, I would love to capture this guy, if allowed. Yeah, so of course they don't allow it. And now bishop c3, attacking this guy. If they play knight e4, I'm just going to take it. Because things are closed enough, I don't have to worry too much about king safety. So now they've made this bishop bad, so I'm actually just happy to maybe bring my bishop back. Because I'm looking at playing my knight to b5. They've weakened the c6 square. And the b5. Like, b5 was already weak because of a5 at the start. So those are our biggest targets right now. Just trying to get something to b5. And maybe even putting something on c6 if we're lucky. First order of operations is getting our knight to a better square, because it's not really so hot right now. And then this bishop all of a sudden does have somewhere it can go. I think that because of this, our maneuvers will be a little bit easier, because now our bishop, I think, can be a good piece. We just need it outside of the pawn chain. And we can do that by playing a4 and bishop a3. And all of a sudden it's looking at this potentially weak d6 square. Which feels especially weak when you combine it with something like b6. And it's kind of strange to say why. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just because like now I'm noticing it, but after b6 it feels especially strong, at least to me, to play a piece to b5. Just because at least the bishop can't use that square or like push anymore. I wonder if they ever end up pushing. Knight to b5, attack it. Okay. Do I ever end up trading or going f3? It's possible. I don't hate bishop f1, bishop f3, knight. I want to be careful that they don't get some attack going though. So I'm just going to go knight c3 for now. If they end up trading, that's fine with me. Just improve my king. And I want to play knight b5. So the idea here is knight b5, bishop b8, a4. Okay. Will they go knight e4? Out of desperation. I'm not sure if they will. Another question is, do we ever play f3 to prevent knight e4? And I think the answer might be no, because we have to worry about e5. What if they try opening things up when we've just weakened the e3 pawn? That can be extremely dangerous. So instead, I would rather get this knight to e4 and leave it there, because I don't know how much I'd care if it does stay there for a little bit. h3 is definitely the move. Definitely not any f3 stuff. Knight to b5 now. And if they ever go knight to e4, I just go queen to e2 or queen to e1. Yeah, and now a4. This knight's pretty good. And I think the center matters a little bit less than... so I go queen d3. I guess there's maybe some concern of queen f6. So queen e1 makes more sense. I think there's a good argument to make, though, that the queen side matters a little bit more than the center. And that's the argument I'm trying to make here. For example, right now I'm threatening to take and then go rook c1 and bishop a3. And I think that's incredibly annoying to deal with. My dream scenario, I think, is to get a position where it's this knight versus this bishop. Maybe. Because this knight is quite good. It also might not be. Like, it's one of those things where sometimes it's hard to ascribe... whether or not ascribe, I don't even know if that's the right word there, but hard to tell if something's good or if it's just like aesthetically pleasing to look at. Like it's just a yummy move. I don't hate f3, but I also hate it because it drops g3. So let's not do that. Let's go bishop a3 instead. Everything is defended. e5 I'm not too concerned about. If ever e5, I just go back, actually. That would be a huge gift. And I think when things start coming off on the c-file, my job gets a little bit easier. Because then it feels like there's less mating threats. This might not be 100% true. But the rooks do add a little bit of flair into the attack, I think. We'll have to see. It feels like I'm under a little bit of pressure. I think a huge positional mistake would be something like f4, by the way. The reason why is because then e4 can never be challenged. Like, it's always nice to have f3 potentially in the air. Even if it's not necessarily a good move right now, or ever, it's at least a threat, right? If you play f4, then f3 is never possible. So they're looking at maybe taking here. Which is just not possible. Anytime they try, nothing comes of it. So I'll just take on b5. Important thing is, if I play rook c1, which I will, then I have to take with the bishop. If I don't take with the bishop here, then what they could try is knight takes f2 or knight takes g3. But my knight, or my queen, is covering the square here, so I don't think we have anything to worry about. Doo-doo-doo. Yeah, there's still a little bit of pressure for them. It's annoying. It feels like there's something there, right? Maybe not a clear advantage, but, you know, their pieces are well placed, coordinated against my g3 pawn. And, well, I'm sure we've all lost positions similar to this. So if they go h4, do I ever want g4, or should I just go h4 now? Maybe h4 is a bit safer. Now I like knight c3. Maybe. I still want to kind of leave it on the cards. But that would alleviate some pressure here. Yeah, knight c3 is looking good. They want to go g5. This is kind of a way to stop it. Knight c3. We'll take it. g5 is no good. Also, f3 might have looked like a move. It's actually not here because they can take on g3, and then after the trade they can take with the knight. That's definitely a huge mistake to watch out for. But they're pretty low on time, so they might end up just flagging here. I'm not sure. So g5. Looks like I can take on e4, play something like f3. They have to deal with this. If they go here or something, I'm just going to go knight d2 and keep the piece. Yeah. It's interesting that they took like that. I don't know why I wasn't expecting it. I don't think it's bad, though. Let's take here. They're probably going to play h4. Okay, they don't. And I think that we benefit from this. And can play something like queen c3. But we can also consider queen h1. With the idea of queen h4. Same thing with queen d1. I like queen c3. They're low on time. Queen g4. We just have to make sure we don't blunder like a perpetual or something. Queen c3, queen g4. We just go like bishop d2. And if queen f3 check, we can just go here. But then they can take. Yeah, maybe queen h1 is the best option. And now queen h4. Or like king f1. I like king f1 actually. Attacking e4. Keeps my chances alive a little bit. They're low on time, so I'm not sure it even matters, but you know, you want to play objective moves anyways in these types of situations. Okay, king e1. You don't want to blunder. Okay. Now what? Bishop c3. d5 is kind of funny. Takes. Queen h4. Is this pawn ending okay for us? Takes, takes, king g6, king g2, king f5, king... Wait. Takes, takes, king g6, king f1, king there, king g4. No, it's not. So just don't play that, but that's okay. Queen h2? I'm struggling to find like moves that aren't losing for them potentially. Let's go queen g2 now. See if we can get f5. There we go. I was actually hoping for that. And now I want to remaneuver to the side of the board. Takes. Queen a6. Or queen c4. No, we'll go queen g2. And now I think this is a win. Yeah. They were low on time anyways. Maybe I shouldn't have worried too much. But my opponent played much better. Well, not better because this is our first time playing them. My opponent played quite well here, actually. And there's definitely some things to discuss. So maybe a3 wasn't the right way to play. Knight h4 is recommended. Going for the bishop pair. After c6, we take on d5. Take on d5 and take on f5. It is quite good. Why not something like bishop to g6? Knight takes, h takes. I guess the idea is queen b3. And they'd either have to go like knight c6 or like queen c8. And both of these are quite passive. And in fact, we can just win a pawn if we wanted to. I don't know if the pawn is actually worth taking here, though. It is. Okay. It is. They have a little bit of compensation for it, but definitely not enough. Bishop e3 is kind of game over at that point. If they ever take it, the idea is you can take with the pawn and go e4. And you have a lot of control over the center here. c6, maybe queen f3 or something, and then e4. Just a random line. But yeah, so where did things go wrong for us? Because it felt like we weren't doing so bad, and then all of a sudden we were not doing so great. Takes. Maybe d4 was incorrect. Yeah, d4 is actually incorrect. So knight a4 first was better, with the idea of bishop a7 and rook c1, and just leaving the pawn there. And I think it's because we need to cover e4. And I was trying to go for this like reverse London setup with the Fianchetto bishop, but I even said it myself that this bishop's worse than this one, because you have to compare the ones that are the better ones of the pawn chain. So like if I play d4, these two are similar, but their bishop's better than mine because their bishop's doing something on this diagonal, but mine is not on like f4, so it's not doing anything on this diagonal. And this position is all about the c file, so they control the c file after d4. Whereas I don't, right? If this bishop was on like e5, it's a different story. Even still, it's not as good because this Fianchetto kind of blocks some of its path. So those are some things to mention. And when we look at the other bishop here, after d4, when we look at these two, the ones that are the opposites of their own pawn chains, this one's also arguably better than this one. Just because they're controlling parts of the c file where I'm not. It is kind of a target with something like knight to a4, but yeah, then it became annoying with bishop a7 to b8. So that was kind of silly foresight on me for recognizing that a piece wasn't so great of mine. Actually, both pieces, and still kind of going for it. Here, rook takes c8 is quite good. And that's because we can just get the file. I don't know why I didn't play that. That looks quite reasonable. Then bishop c3. But okay. Bishop c3. And yeah, I was considering knight b2 here. But the problem is knight e4. And I'm not really sure if I want to take it now. And the reason why I wasn't sure and I was getting a little bit less confident here is because you can always see things like h4, like h5, h4. Maybe they get in on the light squares. And it feels like my light squares might be a little weak. So yeah, I ended up going back. This wasted a little bit of time. We got b6 played against us. So yeah, actually h3 is quite good. Which is interesting. And we can play queen a6. That's the idea. Move our knight. Or maybe play knight b5 or something. And this bishop's like strictly misplaced now. Knight a4 and knight b5. Maybe just knight b5. Even though actually knight a4 is objectively better. It's attacking b6. But okay. This was not played, obviously. h3, knight f6, knight b5, and a4. So generally these positions are supposed to be about the queen side, but my opponent played extremely well and realized that their strength actually lies on this g3 pawn. And that was good on them for noticing that. After knight e4, queen e1, things got really uncomfortable here after queen f6. So luckily we weren't like, ooh. Oh no. I missed this. I missed knight g5. Wow. h4, there's queen e4 check, and anywhere the king moves, that it can legally move, you're losing material. I think the only exception is like king f1, but that's just no good. Yeah, like king h2 and king g1, there's knight f3 check. That should be mentioned. But king f1, queen h3, queen f3, king d2, knight e4, king c2, knight takes f2 should be just winning. Yeah, g3's hanging, knight e4 back, and that's over. So that was a huge miss. That's a really easy move to miss though. My opponent ended up playing h5. Now after h4, this move's not possible, which is nice. But again, we wish we had like, if we could just like trade this bishop for like a light square bishop, I think we're okay. We have a nice piece here, but yeah, things are still pretty rough actually. Queen f5 and like g5 are really strong ideas here. So queen g4, knight back to c3, and actually f3 is okay here. I thought it wasn't after queen takes. But you can take on g5. And if knight e4, knight e2, looks like you just trade those pawns. Yeah, you just trade the pawns for each other. It was these pawns, I think, or something like that. So that's kind of a weird trade. These positions, although very symmetrical, can get very messy very quick. So yeah, I was really concerned about h4. I'm glad they didn't play it, because that would have been trouble. But now I think things are okay. So I was looking at queen c3, but I was trying to go for more because I don't want to, you know, lose any games. I wasn't sure of any taking on g3 or queen g4, for example. The reason why is because after queen c8, king g7, queen takes b8, there's actually queen f3 check. And it looks like there's repetitions, or they're able to pick up the bishop. So for example, queen g1, there's queen d1 check, or king g1, queen d1, and king moves somewhere, and they can take c1, or just, you know, go back. And you can't go king h2 or king h3, because either queen h1 or queen f2. So this is a bit of a problem. So I was trying to keep chances alive with queen h1. Objectively, it's worse though. King g7, king f1, queen g6, bishop d2. Maybe king, yeah, well, king e1 actually was kind of necessary to prevent queen d1. And bishop c3. It would have been nice to be able to, like, I don't know. There's not, like, I guess f5 is something, but my idea was to try to see if I can get, like, d5 complications in. But they were low on time at this point, so I don't know how much the rest of this matters. Yeah, in this position, actually, it is a draw. I did make a snap decision by trading. I was thinking of moves like queen c4, queen b5, but I was noticing they have some checks here. So for example, if I go like queen a6 or something, queen h1 check, king d2, they don't have a check for the move, but after they play something like queen to f3, they're going to be getting a lot of checks in and being able to take a lot of my pawns, which is no good. But okay, we ended up winning from time. Time is part of the game, right? That's something we should mention, but we're finally, I think, hitting an area where my lack of opening knowledge for the King's Indian attack is starting to show, and I have to really step up my game because people are not going to just let me roll them over and win pawns or pieces now. So that's a very exciting thing and something we have to look forward to. And that means I got my work cut out for me to prove that this is an okay opening that you can play all the way up to 2000. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.